that has lasted over 6 months. The prosecution and the defence ended their final arguments over a month ago in the murder case against the double amputee who shot his girlfriend, Reeves Steenkamp, on Valentine's Day last year. Today, it's the turn of the judge who went through a pile of evidence to seal Pistorius' fate. Pistorius claimed that he mistakenly shot Steenkamp, thinking there was an intruder in his home. The prosecution alleges the Olympic runner intentionally killed her after an argument. Well, on this fateful day, we cross live to our reporter on the scene as always, Griselda Lewis, on what is expected to transpire throughout the day. Good morning, Griselda. I understand you have a guest with you, but just set the scene for us, please.
Well, a very good morning to you, Eben. Well, just to bring you up to speed with the latest developments, Oscar Pistorius arrived just a few minutes ago here at the North Gauteng High Court on certainly what is one of the most important days in his life. You know that the races that he has run over the years and really excelled in, certainly very important chapters in his life, but this would certainly be one of the most important of all of those as Judge Thokozile Masipa begins handing down her verdict in this matter. Just before that, much to the media's glare, into a media scrum outside the court here, Carl Pistorius, Oscar Pistorius' brother, and his, I can call him pillar of strength, arrived here at the court on a wheelchair. You will recall, of course, several weeks ago he was involved in a near-fatal car accident, and there was speculation this morning on whether he will continue to receive rehabilitation or he will come to the court. Certainly you would see it as very important for him to be here today. You would recall he was always the one giving Oscar Pistorius great support since the bail application as well. And we've heard inside this court as well that when Oscar Pistorius and Carl lost their mother, it was Carl Pistorius who and his sister Army. So basically in this case, what will happen today is that Judge Thokozile Masipa will go through the testimonies of the 37 state and defense witnesses who testified in this matter, including the testimony of Oscar Pistorius, to determine which of those was credible and which of those was not. But also very importantly, South Africa's image around the world, as this case has taken the international stage. What sort of image has been portrayed of South Africa in this matter? South Africa's image, its reputation. To chat a bit about that to us now is Mr. Tebe Ikalafeng, who is a brand expert. Mr. Ikalafeng, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Has South Africa's image, reputation, taken a knock as a result of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial?
I don't think it's taken a knock. I think it has been tested, and I think it's come out in flying colors, because I think what you've noticed, certainly how Judge Masipa has handled this entire trial, has been fair without fear or favor.
The world's media is here. You were in awe when you saw the media scrum that was taking place just a few minutes ago. But certainly South Africa's justice system as well, very much under the spotlight. Has it been a fair trial so far? That's what the international media is asking. Is South Africa's justice system in accordance with standards around the world? Those are some of the questions. What's your take on the judicial system and the spotlight that has been cast on?
Well, certainly South Africa's constitution is always held up as one of the finest in the world, an example not just for emerging worlds, but really around internationally for emerged worlds as well. So here what we have seen now, we've seen that constitution being tested and really standing to the test of being seen to be fair and treating everybody equal under the law. And I think as South Africans, we can be proud that we have not had any hiccups in this trial. It has gone according to what one expects of a world-class international country.
Well, you know, there's always been a word that South Africa is full of crime. South Africa, some have even gone on to say, is the capital of violent crime around the world. Do you think, with the presence of the international media here, that would give credence, given that this case is so much in the spotlight? Certainly doesn't paint a full picture, but does it give credence at all?
Well, I mean, this was not a random crime committed by people from outside. It was two people who knew each other very well. So I don't think necessarily that this case itself says anything about South Africa's crime status in the world. But of course, there's always been those perceptions about South Africa and crime. But we did see during the World Cup when those perceptions were persistent and people came to South Africa and they realized that this is just another country like any other country in the world, which has got its weaknesses and has got its strengths, but we've got the system and the judicial system to deal with these matters, and certainly I'm not worried about that at all.
There's also brand Oscar Pistorius, put South Africa on the map, known around the world. Brand Oscar Pistorius, to what extent, if at all, in your view, has it taken a knock, if at all?
You know, the brand Pistorius was you could almost parallel it with brand South Africa, because it's an individual who overcame challenges, who overcame what could have been debilitating circumstances and triumphed over them, and in many ways just like South Africa triumphed over 20 years ago over the apartheid system. So certainly for Oscar Pistorius, this is a turning point. I do not think that he'll ever be the same person that he ever was, and this trial certainly has put paid to his brand. I think for him to recover from this, whether he's guilty or whether he's free, will take tremendous amount of redoing, which I think is going to be absolutely rather impossible.
Well, I think, also a lot of spotlight has been put on Judge Thokozile Masipa. I've been reading some of the tweets this morning in some of the newspapers, also in the international press on the internet, saying that in South Africa we're looking at a situation where you have a woman presiding over this case, a black woman from the townships, a woman who did not come from a privileged background, presiding over a case of a privileged young man, a white privileged young man. Do you think that speaks for South Africa and how far South Africa has come in terms of transformation? First of all, we have a woman judge who's dealing with this particular issue. In terms of the reputation, in terms of the image, are you able to give us some insight on that?
Well, I think it speaks very well to South Africa. It really does speak to this nation which has been able to remake itself. Because you think about it, this is probably the most high-profile case we've had in the history of South Africa, other than 1964 when Mandela went to jail in the Rwanda trial. So I think what in this instance, it really doesn't matter whether she comes from an underprivileged background or whether Oscar comes from an underprivileged background. She's a highly credible, highly experienced judge, and in this instance, that's the role that she's playing with aplomb.
Always very insightful. Thank you very much, Mr. Thebe Kalafeng, who is giving us some insight into South Africa's reputation, South Africa's image, the image of the judiciary as a result of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial. We're expecting proceedings to get underway in the next few minutes, and certainly we're waiting to see which of those witnesses really that Judge Thokozile Masipa's testimonies will actually go through, and certainly what we're expecting, one of the primary testimonies for her to focus on is that of Oscar Pistorius. Was Oscar Pistorius a reliable witness or was he not? Certainly all of that will be unpacked this morning, but the final verdict, the full verdict, certainly, Eben, we're expecting only tomorrow when we'll know what Oscar Pistorius' fate is.